All right, I have a whole bunch of fabric out here on the table so that we can have a little chat about episode 1 this year. Episode 1 this year was called Ems and O's Goes on a Second Date. But like all things in the School of Weaving, everything that sometimes something new is brought to the table, and it has nothing necessarily to do with anything that we've done in the past. But so often there are things that have happened in the past that build season upon season upon season. And I like that idea because, if you weave a project in a structure, you've done just that. You've woven a project in that structure, but you haven't explored that structure. And when we live with a structure for a long period of time, or we come back to that structure again and again and again, we find that there's more and more and more that we can do every time. And that's the part that keeps me weaving. It is that exploration, that trying to find where I can push it here, push it there. That's what keeps me at the loom and has kept me going for 45 years. So what I want to do before we get into what we did this year, I want to take a little trip down memory lane and go over here to the first time we ever wove M's and O's way back in season 6, just a couple seasons ago. We did our very first project. And this project was really special for me because because the fabric that I created reminded me of fabric that was in my grandparents' home, my grandfather's home. I only had one grandparent, and he was so important to me. And he lived in a house that he had lived in for 60 years, and the decorations in that house were chosen by my grandmother, who I never knew. But I know that I'm part of her. And so weaving this project was kind of paying homage to my grandparents and to my grandmother. Anyway, I did it in M's and O's. I used colors that were in that living room on cushions and a terribly worn sofa, a velvet sofa in chocolate brown it was just worn out all over the place. Anyway, creating this textile, this series of placemats where I linked M's and O's to monk's belt and wove it so many different ways, it planted a seed. And that seed, once a seed is planted in my garden or in my head, it has to grow. I have to grow it. So that's where we started with this. We wove so many things off of this several years ago. Then the next year, because we were doing color and weave on top, I changed the threading and I introduced us to a 5-thread method of threading each half unit. 1 2 1 2 1 4 3 4 3 4 1 3 1 3 1 4 2 4 2 4. It's all in here. We did all of this. We learned how to make the threading symmetrical. And we learned how to overlay color and weave on top of it. And I got totally obsessed and created all these gamps with different combinations of dark and light on individual threads. I think there was 3 of these gamps that I presented in that episode. It was massive, the amount of information that I have not yet had the chance to use. I want to write a book on M's and O's and all of this. Oh, to have the time. I'm going to have time. I will have time because I have new teachers coming to the school, and that'll give me time to write. Anyway, we took one of the ideas from one of these gamps, we put it into a warp, and we wove it in all these beautiful pieces. So I'm going to just hold them up for a second. We just need one big view of each one. So this was the series. This is where we left off last year, and I couldn't leave it alone. When I left off with this, I just had to keep going, and that's why we have Color and Weave going out, or M's and O's going out on a date with Color and Weave and Huck and picking up Bronson lace treadling for our opening episode this year. Aren't these amazing? I look back at all this cool stuff that is in the school, and I don't know if it's okay if I say this, but I'm kind of blown away because I forget all the things that I've done. I weave it, I move on to something else. So I knew I was terribly inspired by this entire episode, but it's been in a box for a year, and I just got it all ironed. We ironed it all up to put on the table to show the connection between all of these things. And I'm gobsmacked. I honestly had forgotten all of this. So if you've never woven these, you might want to. If you want to have a little M's and O's binge. Clearly, I wove 10 pieces on that warp. All different. Playing with composition and dark and light. Look at that. Is that not a glorious place to end? Oh my God. Okay, so that's where we ended last season. And that's what I couldn't leave alone and had to pick up this season. So now we're moving to this portion of the table. We are using the same threading method. It is a modified method developed by Harriet Tidball, and that was sent to me by several members of the School of Weaving. David Schultz and Marilyn Cowgill sent me this article on it, which inspired that episode, and I continued on with it with this episode. So everything that happens for a reason. When the Dream Team worked on that episode for last year, Arlene Kohut got carried away and did all of her M's and O's in Huck. She didn't even weave M's and O's. She did it all in Huck. I got all of her pieces and went, oh my God, this is just so crazy. So I knew I had to develop it further. So I chose a different graphic this time. But this is a graphic that is sort of familiar to you. It speaks to the asymmetry graphic or to the Log Cavin graphic that we did way back in season 3. We did asymmetry in season 2. That sample inspired the Log Cavin graphic that we did in season 3, and now that graphic is inspiring this in season 8. So that overlay idea is so cool because we're creating a library where everything's related somehow. All right? So these are the pieces, just playing with dark light combinations on a new graphic that we wove this year. And I started sticking with just the M's and O's. Slightly different graphic. Graphic always leads for me in the design process. Here, things are changing up. I'm using thread on thread use of color and weave, and I'm using unit on unit. So dark on a full unit, light on a full unit. That's what's happening in the borders up here. The center has thread on thread. So dark light, dark light, dark light, changing in the threading. So we're using it two ways. Color and weave. That great, amazing thing. Just mind-boggling, huh? I've got these all going different directions. Anyway, here we're starting to get into our huck. We can see how different the interlacement is. Al, can you come in close to this section right here? So everything up until the last one has been pure M's and O's, but here's where I start playing with the Huck Lace treadling. So there is a Huck Lace treadling. It changes the interlacing structure completely. Super cool. Now this is all because of Arlene. Arlene did everything. Look at that, those stripes. Those stripes are phenomenal. All right? And then I took that and went to weft floats, M's and O's weft floats tie up. And this is worth coming in and doing a big check on it, a good top to bottom. You can see the weft floats. And look at all those amazing patterns coming down to the center. Look at that. Oh my God, right there. Be still, my beating heart. That is just so spectacular. All right. And then this piece is Bronson lace treadling. So this is where I ended up. So tabby, float tabby, other tabby. If you have done season 5 with me, you've heard that over and over and over. Tabby, float tabby, other tabby. So that you can repeat the same unit again and again and again. We need that extra tabby in there. And that's how I'm able to get these columns in here. Look at, I did something different. Here I've got them alternating up at the top, but here I was just totally starting to own that Bronson lace treadling. Tabby, float, tabby, other tabby, so that I can create columns. So we were at place towel number 8, and I was just getting to where I wanted to get. All right? So as soon as we finished doing this, as soon as I finished filming this, and I had a teensy-weensy bit of time before I had to have the next episode done. Well, I had some time, not a teensy bit of time, because Rebecca Logan came in. And because Rebecca Logan came in and took an episode off of my shoulders, it allowed me to do something I haven't done in a long time, which is to be able to go down a rabbit hole and dig a little deeper and see where I could go. And I so need to do that. And that's why having new teachers come to the School of Weaving is going to benefit everybody in the long run. You get great new teachers. I get to go down some rabbit holes, and I'll bring it all back to the school. So it's win-win, huh? Anyway, finished that, did this episode, had some time, and this is what I came up with. So using some of the elements of the other piece, I've got 3 stripes graphically here, here, and here. We had 3 stripes in the other warp right here. Just come down and look at that. See, you can see those 3 stripes. Well, now I've put them right out on the border, and I've made them symmetrical, and I've got just this repetitive sequence happening in the center where M's and O's is threaded. But this is woven in what I call plain weave-ish. So this is a pattern that I created, and it's called Buckins and Owls. And if you kids love this, you might want to try this kit, because I really take everything further. And it really is a full episode, but it's just presented in the PDF. I go through everything, absolutely everything, but it's not in the School of Weaving, but it is in our online store. So if you really love this, Buckins and Owls is based on what we did to open up the year. Is that not beautiful? In plain weavish. So simple, so elegant. Oh. And here we go, getting into our M's and O's. I love this piece. Should I say that about 12 more times? You guys must get so tired of my repetition. I am a repetitive sequence. Look at this, Huck Lace. Oh, Arlene, you smarty pants, you. Look what you did to me. And, you know, just working with the dream team, I'm telling you, those kids are starting to fly past me. I love it. This is still Huck Lace tie-up. Yum, yum, yum. This is Huck Lace weft spots with Huck Lace treadling and Bronson lace treadling. It's all in the PDF. So, the thing that I love about this is it shows the relationship, not to just the things that are being presented in the School of Weaving, but it shows the relationship between all weave structures. That's really important, to know that these things are not, they don't live in isolation. And if we learn about them more and more and more, we can see how they're all part of one big, beautiful family. Combination of Huck Lace and Bronson spot treadling on M's and O's threading. Pretty cool, huh? So there you go, kids. That's all I'm going to say to you for this little part. But it's been a great study, and I'm jonesing to take it further. So hopefully I will be able to do that soon. All right, we're going to clear the table and get ready for the next part. See you in a sec.